Afternoon folks, how yous going? Little John in the brewery for a sort of a 5 on Friday with a little bit of a lean to, or a little bit of a brew school sort of a feel. But anyway, here we are. We're getting some support from the Breakfast Creek Hotel, substation 41 rum. And before I get into it, shout out to the Patreons and all the subscribers to the channel, all that support. You know, thanks guys, it helps the channel keep going. It's the first video of the month, which means it's Patreon draw time. So got all the names now. This includes all the newer Patreons and also the newest Patreon, who gets a big shout out, James Whiting, who's jumped on at the time of this video. It's actually like a couple of days ago, but by the time the video comes out, it's a week and a half. Anyway, so here we go. Let's see if we can get ourselves a winner. Prize pack this month will consist of some stuff I don't know, but you'll get a surprise when it turns up at your house. When it turns up at your house and you get to open it up, you'll learn what it is. Ah, look at that. Jake Muldoon, you're the man. You're the winner of this, mate, this month, Jake. It's very interesting. I've just done the videos, just finished on the last of the tasting videos for the beers from brewery that he sent to me, which I think is actually going to, the videos for that will actually come up, I think, in a couple of days time. I'm not actually home at the moment. I'm in Wollongong. I've pre-recorded this, so the video goes out on time and everyone gets their stuff. So that's just completely convenient that Jake's name come up. So anyway, thumbs up to all the patrons. There's a link down the bottom if you're interested in seeing what it's about. Jump on and have a look. That gets me to today's video. Today's topic: fermenting fridges, or fermenting chambers in general. Now, this video comes from a question that was put to me by David Palmano on Facebook, and he asked me if I'd done a video about my fermenting fridge setup, which I've never done. I've done videos and I've done 5 on Fridays talking about fermenting and, you know, how you should, and using temp control and all the rest of it. And I've discussed it many times in different forums, but never actually done a video on the ferment fridge itself. So, David, today's video is in your honour, and in the mode of a great politician. I thank you for your question. But anyway, let's have a quick ramble about fermenting fridges, and obviously, and why you need one. Temperature control is vital to maintaining a nice level for your yeast to work at in your beer to create the desired flavours, or to not make undesired flavours. Can go either way. It's generally a bit of both, but it can go either way with your temperature control. Yeah, when we talk temperature control, we're talking when you're using, let's say, traditional yeast, for the want of a better word, where you're fermenting them in a range where they're happy to work. And we're not taking any consideration for any of the Kveik yeast, saison yeast, and things like that. And it's interesting because the question that David posted up was actually linked to a post about the Lutri yeast that I've recently received. I'll be doing some experiments on going forward. But this is about if you want to use yeast and ferment them in their, well, not in their, even necessarily in their right band, but in any band, to be able to control the temperature that your wort is at while you're brewing. So, yeah, we used to see in this over here further, normally behind me. This is my 2 fermenting fridges. Not always had 2. I had one for a long time. When I started doing a lot of the experiments and stuff, I went to 2 fridges so I could have experimental stuff going on and also my own everyday drinking beer going on at the same time. So I have 2 fridges. This fella, which I've had this for quite a while now. This is a upright fridge, solid all fridge, nothing but. This fella is. It's also all fridge. It's strange, and you'll see when I'm going to bring the camera over and a bit of a closer look. It's all fridge, but it's got a drawer in the bottom, which you can separate into 2 sort of different temperature zones. For a long time, this was my conditioning fridge, and all I did with that fridge was I just conditioned beer in it. I didn't ferment in it, I just conditioned it, but it got progressed to a second ferment fridge. When I sort of decided I was just going more focus on beer on tap and not having so much beer in bottles, so the conditioning issue has not been such a thing. But anyway, let's grab the camera. Let's do a bit of walking. We'll leave some jostling and carrying on. But anyway, so both fridges have currently got beer in them, and they're both running off an STC controller, which I've wired myself. And they're just sitting in a plastic bloody, kitchen container, which I've wired up myself. And yeah, they cost me probably in the vicinity of $35 to make. 2 hours of my time whilst drinking a few beers on the veranda, and they do a fantastic bloody job. So that's the same as using an Inkbird. It's no different. So you could use an Inkbird if you wanted to, or any other plug and play from Kegland, Keg King, anything like that. Most of a lot of brew shops sell the ready to go, which are basically an STC thrown into a more attractive looking box than that one. As any man knows, not all boxes are attractive. Some are more attractive than others. So it's up to yourself how attractive you want the box to be. But anyway, into the ferment fridge. So this was that's all fridge, which is fairly tall. And oh geez, there's some fucking smell coming out of that, some sulphur. There's I've got 2 Extractaganza Blue Mountain Lagers. No, they're not Blue Mountain Lagers, that's English bitters in there. But you can smell as soon as you open the fridge, she lets out the gas. So, I can fit 2 kegs in there. The shelf on there, I can fit another 15 litre fermenter there. I can do 2 15s in here, one on the shelf, one on the bottom. I could do a 30 litre and a 15 litre in here at the one time if I wanted to, but this is normally how it runs, either the 2 cornies or 2 15 litres, or maybe just the all round, I say, depending on what is happening. So heat source on this one is that filler, and that's just a reptile cord, heating cord, which is designed to go underneath aquariums and stuff for heating your reptiles. It's about fucking 3 meters long. You get these in different lengths, and I just hang it off the door rack, and that heats the area up. If you've got a in my old fridge we had wire racks, and I just hung it off the top rack and hung it down in the airspace. So you're using that to heat the air, not directly heating the kegs or your fermenter. Ideally, heat the space. Don't heat your fermenter directly. Use the air around it to regulate the temperature. Now, in this fridge at the moment, you see I've got the temperature probe, which runs obviously into the STC, and I've just got it in a bottle of water. I can't really pick them up too well, but I do that because that way I get that just gives me a more even regulation of the temperature in the whole fridge. If I'm running 2 fermenters, or even just one all-rounder, I'll stick the probe onto the fermenter as you normally would. If I'm running 2 15 litres, I will stick the temperature probe onto the bottom one. And basically, because they're the same beers, they run fairly the same, so it should equalise the temperature over the whole ferment fridge. I could run that with both going. Either way will work. So that's that fella. Into the other one, and basically, yeah, same thing. Fridge. So this one's got the all-rounder in it, and you see this one with the probe is in the traditional spot with the stubby cooler holding it in place against the actual fermenter, measuring the actual wort. Now, this is the US-05 cool ferment, so it's currently sitting on 12 degrees. All good. And this one, it's hard to, probably going to be a bit hard to see back there. A lot of it, but it's fallen down the back a little bit. But on this fella, I use that's just the waterbed heater, and that's just because when I bought that one, I couldn't get hold of another of the reptile cords. I prefer to use those, but either way, they're pretty similar in their wattages. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what it is you use to produce that heat, as long as it's not going to be too savage. So as I said, you've got the reptile heat cords, you've got a waterbed heater. You can use the typical homebrew pad, heating pad. Just don't sit it under your fermenter. Sit it against the wall. Don't sit it against the cold plate. Sit it against the wall. Same thing. Let it warm up the air. Let it warm the air up inside the fridge. That's an easy way of regulating the temperature in the fermenter. As I said, as much as you can, if you can keep your probe on your fermenter to measure the actual wort, and it does measure the wort very accurately. You see a lot of people talk about that not measuring into the middle of the wort, you're not getting a true reading. There's been plenty of case studies and plenty of people have tested it and found that during active ferment, the temperature on the outside of the wort against the inside is generally no more than 0.1 of a degree difference. There's convection going on, there's currents happening inside the wort which keeps the whole thing moving around. So the whole thing stays at the same temperature. So don't worry about, is it measuring temperature enough? If you're going on that process where you're using, let's say, the water bottle, you do need to be aware that in that case your fermenter may be as much as 2 degrees warmer due to exothermic heat during the fermentation process. So you will initially get your wort down to the same temperature that your controller's at, but once that ferment kicks off, that actual fermenter will be warmer, and you need to allow for that. So if you want to have a 20-degree ferment, and you're using that method, then you need to maybe come down to a 19, and then as the ferment slows, it gets towards the end and it's not so active, the heat will drop off, and the temperature will equalise a little bit. But the reality is, if you stick, say you're using USO5, and you've got your water sample at 18, the worst you're going to get is 20.5 degrees in an active ferment, which isn't going to cause it isn't going to do any real harm to your beer, and it'll come back down soon enough. But yeah, ideally, and for most brewers, you got one fermenter in your fridge. Most people aren't brewing 3 or 4 different things at the one time. You got one beer on. Stick your bloody temperature probe to the side of your fermenter, well, sort of good halfway in the in the wort level, and just cover it with an old stubby cooler. You've probably got plenty of stubby coolers. You're anything like me, every bastard buys you a stubby cooler when they go places because they know you drink beer. But as home brewers, we tend not to drink out of the bottle. So stubby coolers are fairly useless. So they're good to cut up. Make a sacrificial offering to the gods and cut up a beer cooler, and just stick it onto the side. I just use use some tape, stick it on, and you're all good. So fermenting fridges. If you don't have one, and you have even the remotest ability to have one, space-wise, then do it. Of all the things you can do, and all the things I've discussed over the years and trialled and done videos on and I talk about with people, of all those things that you can do to make your beer better, temperature control is the single most important, that's in my opinion. If you do nothing else from a basic beer other than temperature control, your beer is going to be a lot better for it. You can use the best yeast in the world and pitch the right amounts, but if you're not controlling, if you haven't got your temperature control, you're not getting the best out of that brew. So I hope that's been helpful. David, I hope that's answered your questions. But that's me for now, done. If you got any comments, any questions, as always, stick them down the bottom. Patrons, again, thank you. Congratulations to Jake Muldoon. I said some prizes coming your way, mate. I said, if you aren't subscribed to Little John, hit the subscribe button. If you like what's going on, hit the thumbs up. But that's me, I'm done. So, till I see you again, we're brewing beer, drinking beer, or we're talking beer, good brewing. And just for the record, my money's on a granddaughter.